Hello class, so we're going to talk about linear perspective today. And linear perspective is one way to create the illusion of space. So as you probably noticed, your drawing is two-dimensional. It's flat. But sometimes a drawing could have the illusion of having three-dimensional space. It could give you the sense that you could put your hand into it, that you could even sometimes walk inside of it if it's a very large drawing. Okay? It gives a sense that it has a sense of depth, as opposed to just a sense of height and width. Now, some art forms, such as architecture and sculpture, occupy actual space, and you could walk around them and sometimes walk inside of them. But for two-dimensional art forms, such as drawings, paintings, and prints, okay, you will be creating the illusion of space or depth. Okay, and one of these methods to create the illusion of space is linear perspective. And this relies on the phenomena that you've probably seen when you've looked down a pair of railroad tracks. When you look down a pair of railroad tracks, you've probably noticed that these parallel lines, because railroad tracks are parallel lines, appear to converge at a point. Okay, they appear to kind of go together. And you can see that right here. These are like the lines on a set of railroad tracks. Okay, so these represent parallel lines, but when you look at them in perspective, they appear to converge. Okay, if you follow these, they appear to converge at this point. Okay, and this point is called the vanishing point. Okay, this is where parallel lines appear to converge at on the horizon line. Okay, and the horizon line is the line where the vanishing point is. And if you're looking parallel to the ground, the vanishing point will be at eye level. Okay, and eye level is the height of your eye. Now, linear perspective isn't the only way to depict an object or a scene. So these are all four methods of depicting a table that has eggs and a drink on it. And I'll say these are all viable and legitimate ways of depicting a table. So method A is basically where you're just focusing on what you think is most important, okay, which is the legs, the egg on top, and the drink. Okay, and all these are shown all at once. And really, this gives you a lot of information. Okay, but doesn't necessarily reflect, our optical experience from one point of view. Okay, it shows multiple points of views in one drawing. Okay, then there's B. This is another way, and basically this is using multiple drawings to show different angles of the table. So this is the table from the top, this is a table from the side, table from the bottom, table from another side, table from another side, and a table from another side. And this is very informative. This way of drawing is used a lot in architecture. We'll show the house from one side, the house from another side, and use multiple depictions of the object or scene in question, and just shows you from all these different points of view. Okay, then there's this way on C, and C basically shows you some of the emotional content of the scene. Okay, so there's just a little more expressive. The table's being bent and showing some of the sense of weight, and this one's a little more expressive. So maybe showing some of the feelings that are associated with this table. Okay, and then there's D, and this is done using linear perspective, and basically it shows you, the optical appearance of the table from one point of view. So you say this one shows multiple points of view in one picture. This one shows multiple points of view in multiple pictures. And this one shows more of an expressive, emotional depiction. But this one shows, like I said, from one point of view, the optical appearance of the table. Now with any of these, you have to realize, you're gaining some information and losing other information. So it's not possible, with a drawing to show our full experience of a table. So everything's always going to be kind of an incomplete picture. But this is the type of drawing that we're going to learn to do in our observational drawing class. So now we're going to talk about one-point perspective. In one-point perspective, the objects are facing you head on. So there's one side that's directly facing you. And this one side is also parallel to the surface of the picture plane. Now, there's also these receding lines. Okay, and these receding lines are what's being represented are parallel lines, but when they're drawn on the picture plane, the edges of each object will appear to recede at one vanishing point. Okay, as you can see here. Now, the horizon line can be placed anywhere on your page. Okay, it can be placed up here, it can be placed down here, it can even be placed off the page. Additionally, the vanishing point can be placed anywhere on the horizon line. Okay, which means the vanishing point can also be off the page. Now, a set of railroad tracks uses one-point perspective, okay, because we have these parallel lines that recede at one vanishing point. And if you look at these pieces of wood, there's a face that faces you directly. Okay, here's an example of one-point perspective showing a architectural drawing by Leonardo da Vinci. And you can see there's one side that's facing you head on. Okay, and then the receding edges meet or appear to converge at one vanishing point. So now we're talking about two-point perspective. In a two-point perspective, the object's not going to face you head on, but you're going to see it from an angle. Okay, and none of the sides are going to be parallel to the picture plane, and there's going to be edges that recede to 2 points on the horizon line. Okay, and oftentimes two-point perspective appears more natural and lifelike, because usually we look at objects from an angle. Okay, and here's an example of two-point perspective. Okay, so here's a painting of Venice, Italy. And as you can see, we're looking at the scene from an angle, and we have these edges that recede to a vanishing point, probably around here. And we have these edges which recede to a vanishing point, probably around over here. And we could look at these orthogonals, which are superimposed on these edges. Here you can see that it looks like the vanishing point appears over here. Okay, and this one actually appears right at the edge of the paper. Okay, and here's some examples of boxes in two-point perspective. Okay, you can see these edges recede to vanishing point over here, and these edges recede to a vanishing point over here. Okay, now another important thing to note is that this edge right here is perfectly vertical. Okay, so this edge shouldn't be at an angle, and neither should this edge. It's perfectly vertical. This one right here is perfectly vertical. So you're probably wondering, how does our study of linear perspective relate to observational drawing? And basically, first you're going to learn how to draw these simulated environments, these floating cubes, using linear perspective. And once you have a firm understanding of how to draw these floating cubes in perspective, you're going to use that understanding to draw scenes that you see from observation in linear perspective. Okay, so you're going to be drawing scenes from an angle, and you're going to use your understanding of two-point perspective to draw those edges accurately and lifelike. Then you may draw scenes head on, and you could use your understanding of one-point perspective to accurately draw those angles that you see in a way that appears lifelike.